handle the truth.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
You have offended my family.
Hey, this is great, man.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
I know nothing.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
We don't need no stinking budget.
Homosexuality, immorality generally.
How in the century you have slurred the meaning of the words we, the people.
Be warned, this is not your mother's marijuana.
You could ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Welcome back, everyone. 46 after the hour. And, of course, since the grand jury's non-indictments in Ferguson and Staten Island, many people have been calling for police to be outfitted with these so-called body cams. President Obama called for millions of dollars to be dedicated to outfitting cops with body cams. But there's a new report coming out of Fusion online at fusion.net where they looked at 5 police departments that already have these body cam programs, and they revealed that pretty much the body cams help the cops. They don't do so much for helping out the citizens, but they're really helpful for the cops. And in 2 of the cities they took a look at, they found that having body cameras didn't change anything about the number of police shootings or use of force incidents. And it's really easy to think about. Just think about your average cop show. There's a million of them on TV. They all have some alphabet name for them, right? And in that procedural crime drama, they've got the bad guy, right? The perp. He's in the interrogation room. And the cops are behind the glass looking in at the detective who's grilling the subject, right? And then there's that dramatic turn where they're not able to get anything out of the guy. So the detective leaves the interrogation room and goes and talks to the cops behind the glass and says, turn off the cameras. Turn off the mics. So they can get all rough with that suspect and find out what's really going on, right? That's such a trope that you've seen it in a million movies or a million TV shows about police procedure, right? Turn off the camera so it can get real. And that's the problem with these body cameras that are being suggested and implemented throughout the United States, is that the cops control the record button. They can turn the camera off. What good is it for us to outfit cameras on cops to presumably catch the bad ones who like to violate police procedure and citizens' rights, when the bad cop has the option of turning the camera off when he's being bad? Now, if there were some policy enforced that said anytime a cop engages with a citizen, the camera has to be turned on, and if it's not, there's severe punishment, maybe that would help, but there is none. There's very, very few punishments meted out against cops who turn their cameras off. So if they've got nothing to fear for turning the camera off, and everything to fear if the nasty shit they did got caught on camera, why wouldn't they turn the camera off? Oh, there's a malfunction in the camera. Oh, there's a problem with the camera. But when the camera's turned on, they'll usually turn it on when something favors their account. Let's take a look at some of these cities that they looked at here. First of all, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, you may recall our stories from New Mexico from, 2013, was it? When they were body cavity searching all of these prisoners that they, or all these suspects that they pull over for the minor traffic infractions, subjecting them to enemas and colonoscopies. Remember that? Well, Albuquerque, New Mexico, they implemented these body cams for these cops in 2010, 4 years ago. They implemented these body cams. How well did those body cams help any of those poor New Mexico people who ended up anally penetrated and vaginally penetrated by law enforcement searching for drugs. Cameras didn't help those folks. And in fact, when you look at the number of police-involved shootings in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's actually gone up. Compared to the 6 years before they had body cameras, in the 4 years since, there's been an increase in police shootings in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, in Albuquerque, they've got a department policy that says all contacts with the public that could result in complaints against the department's personnel will be recorded. If you're going to have a contact with the public that could result in a complaint, you've got to have your camera on. But Fusion, when they looked at the data, they found that cops violated that procedure 60 times in 2013. 60 times they turned the cameras off. And 23 times or 28 times that have been recorded in 2014 so far. In fact, just this last April, an Albuquerque police officer shot and killed a 19-year-old woman. And there was no camera rolling at that point. Let's take a look at New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, Albuquerque, they've got, New Orleans, they've got 448 cameras on 1,136 officers. And, of course, a 26-year-old man got shot in the forehead during a traffic stop. The female cop that shot him, her body camera happened to be turned off at the time. A report from the U.S. Department of Justice found that cameras and body cameras, that would include the body cams and the dash cams that the cops have in their cars, were not used in 60% of the use of force incidents reported between January and May of this year. 3 out of 5 times that the cops used force, they turned their cameras off. Let's take a look at Salt Lake City, Utah, where they've got 420 officers, how ironic, and 180 cameras. In Salt Lake, there have been 9 use of force incidents, 9 use of force incidents in 2014, but only one of them got recorded on a body camera, despite an official department policy that states their cameras should be on at all times when interacting with the public. At all times. But somehow, 8 out of 9 use of force incidents, the cameras weren't turned on. Gee, how did that happen? Oakland, California, 704 cops, 462 cameras. Now, in Oakland, they've been using body cams since 2011, but at least 2 officer-involved shootings managed to not get filmed. An independent monitor found that between July and September in Oakland, officers failed to activate cameras at critical times, while others went weeks without recording while waiting for broken cameras to be repaired. And finally, Fort Worth, Texas, 1,560 officers, 420 cameras. There's 420 again. And they wouldn't release very much data at all. But they found that all allegations made against police officers since the 1st of January were either unfounded or did not result in discipline. So, the Fort Worth Police Department, 1,560 officers, not one of them was guilty of excessive use of force. Not one. Out of all the complaints, these cops were perfect. Sure they were. And of course, you have to ask the most important question. Even if we did have these cops wearing these cameras and took away from them the ability to turn those cameras off, what good would it do? The Eric Garner case filmed by a citizen with a cell phone gave us better video than we could have had with an officer's body camera. And it clearly showed an officer using a prohibited chokehold. And it clearly showed officers piling on him, and it clearly let us hear Eric Garner say 9 times, "I can't breathe." It clearly shows those officers standing around his limp and lifeless body, not offering CPR. It clearly shows EMTs checking the body and not offering any sort of resuscitation. What good did the camera do for Eric Garner and his family? Slapping a bunch of cameras on cops is not going to give us the lasting change that we need. Now, I do encourage it, but only if the cops do not have control of the record button. I don't know what kind of technology is involved here. I don't know why it even has the option of turning that camera on or off. Is it a question of video data storage room? We can't have the camera on at all times throughout the entire shift because we just don't have enough hard drive space, or we don't have enough flash memory space? I refuse to believe that. I stream a live show every day. I do 640 by 360, 128 kilobit encoding every day here. And my 2-hour stream takes up a little more than a gigabyte of data. And that's full color. So, are you telling me that we can't design a body-worn camera for a cop that can record in black and white and monophonic audio for an 8-hour shift from beginning to end? Really? Is that what you're telling me? When I have thumb drives like this one that can hold 8 gigabytes easily. Is this an 8 gig? Oh, there's a 2 gig, but still. Thumb drives like this size that can hold up to 64 gigs now. You can't tell me there's not enough data storage space to record an entire cop's day. A cop's entire day. There's no reason you can't record the entire day. There's no reason the cop should be able to turn that off. We're going to have to do so much more to be able to reform our police, but getting some transparency and accountability is the first step. But that doesn't matter if there's no enforcement mechanism for that first step. We need to make sure the cops understand they are to be held accountable. They are to be videotaped and audio recorded at all times, and that any use of force by a cop against a citizen should involve a prosecutorial team that is independent from law enforcement. The cops need their own cops, their own investigations that are independent. We can no longer rely, and I'm telling you, the grand juries have taught us this in these recent weeks, that we can no longer rely on prosecutors who are buddy-buddy with the cops to hold the cops themselves accountable. The culture of law enforcement just will not allow it. The adversarial system that we have just will not allow it. I applaud the idea of adding body cameras, but they need to be on for the entire shift without any mechanism for the cop to turn it off. And some serious repercussions if that cop blocks the view of the camera, if the camera gets mysteriously broken, etc. Folks, that's all the time we got for Hour 1. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for Toker Talk Radio Hour 2. We'll take your calls at 971-533-7111. More talk about the news of the day. Plus, Gordon Green will be calling in, giving us some interesting Irie Wednesday music, a song in Spanish from a German band. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you